program will help you with any medical problems you have by giving you advice on air. However, they do not have your full medical history and they have not seen you. Please verify the advice given to you on air with your doctor who knows you better. Neither the doctors nor Radio Ansaar will be held responsible for any ill health caused by the advice given on Radio Ansaar.
أحب الوفاء بشتى الصور أحب الوفي الأمين أغر فأهل الوفاء كلون السحاب وحسن الربيع
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. All praise due to Allah, the Lord, cherisher, nourisher, sustainer and master of the universe, the most gracious, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Ya Allah, it is only you that we worship and it is your guidance that we seek. Ya Allah, keep us on the straight path. Ya Allah, show us the choice of blessings. Ya Allah, show us the mercy. Ya Allah, guide us. Greetings, salam, salutations and our beloved Nabi Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Medical Files, brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa and hosted by myself, Faizal MJ Suleman. We welcome our listeners on Radio Ansaar, CII Radio, Voice of the Cape, Radio 786 Sirius FM, Radio Islam and IFM Port Elizabeth, and all listening to us on audio streaming, other platforms like Facebook, YouTube, etc. You all welcome to Medical Files. Our topic for discussion this evening is violence against women and children, and our very special guest this evening is Sister TASNEEM Farid, a practicing social worker. TASNEEM, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and jazakallah khair for joining me in the program this evening.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. TASNEEM, I did say that this program is brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa. So I'm going to read a little message that they've sent before we start our discussion. Yesterday, the 1st of December, was World AIDS Day, a reminder of the progress South Africa has made and the work that still lies ahead. South Africa carries one of the world's largest HIV burdens, yet also leads globally in treatment access, prevention programs, and research. Thanks to widespread treatment, millions of South Africans are living longer, healthier lives, new infections are declining, and mother-to-child transmission rates have dropped dramatically. But the fight is not over. Regular testing saves lives, treatment works, preventative measures and preventative medication offer powerful protection against new infections, and the stigma remains one of the biggest barriers to care. So just to remind you that yesterday was World AIDS Day, and it's a reminder to all of us of the progress that South Africa has made and the work that still lies ahead. Now, the introducer will get TASNEEM Farid is a practicing social worker since 1997 and has acquired a number of varied skills. She worked in geriatrics for 20 years, in palliative care for 1 year, women's shelter for 1.5 years, joined the Islamic Medical Association team in October 2022. She is married to her best friend and she is the mother to 2 young adults, which has widened her general knowledge and creative thinking skills. It is amazing to see her children as emerging adults. One of the greatest difficulties is balancing their independence and sense of responsibility whilst maintaining a loving relationship. So that's our guest, TASNEEM Farid, this evening. Now, TASNEEM, our topic for discussion is violence against women and children. What is the reality of gender-based violence in South Africa?
So first, a little explanation about what gender-based violence is.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a violence that occurs as a result of role expectations in society, where there's a relationship of trust.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a relationship, for example, we might be living together, we might be husband and wife, we might be family members, and there's an imbalance of power. Somebody holds more power over somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And in this power relationship, there might be some form of abuse. This may be either physical, sexual, verbal, emotional, psychological, financial, and even threatening behavior.
Okay.
And to answer your question, so I'm going a bit around the boat. To answer your question, the prevalence of gender-based violence in South Africa is very high, unfortunately. In about a year, in about 3 months, there are over 1,000 in 3 months, over 1,000 reported cases of gender-based violence.
There might be another 2,000 unreported.
Exactly. Because people are afraid to report, people don't have access to resources, people may be in such situations that they can't. It takes a lot of guts to report something like that.
Now, we said gender-based violence, but all of us just have one vision of the male abusing the female, but I'm sure this is vice versa as well.
Gee, there is. There's quite a number of female against male gender-based violence. These days, there's also what is known in society as these LGBTQ relationships as well. And there's also violence within those relationships. And violence against people who are seen to be different in society as well.
Okay. And you say that we look at almost 1,000 cases in 3 months.
Gee.
And those are reported.
Those are the reported cases.
Those figures are really frightening. Now, once you've survived such an incident, how can a social worker help you? What do social workers do for survivors?
So a social worker is actually essential in terms of the mental stability. A person would need to recover, and sometimes the survivors of gender-based violence are young people. You can move on with your life. There's also the reporting of it. There's the children issues. The children may need counseling. What they've witnessed in the relationship, you don't want them to accept that this is a norm of life, that I can accept it because my mother lived through it, or I can be violent because that's what my father did. So there's all those issues to go through as well.
Now, I'm sure, you've dealt with many, 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 many cases. Tell us about, the actual effect that it has on children. And have any of your, victims, their parents been to similar situations? I'm sorry to call them victims, let's call them survivors.
Survivors,
my apologies.
No problem. It's very sad to understand that men that are violent have sometimes come from abusive homes. A lot of the cases have come from violent homes. They themselves may have been physically, sexually, or emotionally, or all of the above, traumatized as well in their childhood. And this then perpetrates into their homes, into their relationships. The sad thing about it is that it also leads to secondary social issues such as substance abuse and things like that. And what also happens then is that men are more reluctant to talk about their issues that they've experienced in life. And so they do not get help, they do not seek help. And their behavior then is perpetrated into their adulthood.
And what should a survivor do right after an assault?
The main thing is safety. You work towards getting out. You want to move away from the situation of harm. You would need to get to a safe place. If you need emergency help, call SAPS 10111. Or if you're on a cell phone, the most simple number is 112. And seek medical help urgently, not only for injuries, but also for evidence collection. If someone's been raped, then HIV prevention or PEP treatment and counseling can be obtained. And some treatments are time sensitive. So we advise that survivors not bath or not change their clothes if possible, so that evidence is preserved. And if you really feel like you must, then place the clothing into a paper bag, and this will preserve evidence. Social workers and NGOs help survivors to accompany them to hospital or the police to help reduce the trauma sometimes. So if you've got some kind of support, that would help.
We discussing violence against women and children, and our special guest is TASNEEM Farid, a practicing social worker. And if you have any questions for her, you may forward them to us via WhatsApp on 060 904 1056 060 904 1056. Topic for discussion against violence against women and children. And if you have any questions, if you've been a survivor, then I'm sure you'll have some questions for her, or if you know somebody who's had problems and have any questions, please forward them to us, 060 904 1056. Now, Tasneem, how can community members help a survivor?
Gender-based violence thrives in silence.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't only happen in poor families.
Mm-hmm.
It happens in socially respectable families, in wealthy families. So community members can make a huge difference by believing survivors, believe their stories,
Mm-hmm.
challenge abusive behavior, report dangerous situations, and help women to seek help. Even small actions like walking with someone to a police station or helping them to make a call or call a hotline can save a life. Prevention begins at home and in schools and in social circles.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear the statistics that every day, I just want to get the number right, a woman is murdered every 3 hours
Mm-hmm.
in South Africa. So that means that in a day, you've had 9 people murdered.
Okay.
8 or 9 people are dying in a day because they are a victim of gender-based violence.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that 1 in 5 women experience physical violence. And, it might be hidden. So don't be a community that says, oh, just apologize to the man and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to change behavior.
Mm-hmm. Many situations, like you said, just take it, just move on and just continue to tolerate what's going on. Now, I'm sure you must have had many situations where eventually when they've come to you, let's not say it's too late, but they've already suffered, lots of trauma. They've had these type of experiences. Now, how life is that? I mean, how many, just percentage, how many of your survivors that come to you, or they've experienced it for a while, they've tolerated it? And if they have, what are some of the reasons for them having tolerated it?
So usually people are dependent on the abuser because of their social standing. They're dependent on the abuser for their status. They in this relationship for 20 years, 30 years, they don't see a way out. I'll stick around for the sake of the children.
Mm-hmm.
Not realizing the emotional trauma that the children go through by seeing this woman that we respect as our mom being abused, as well as financially. Usually they are financially dependent on this person. So women stay in these relationships, and it might take something that makes them snap. It might be something that pushes them over the edge, that might get them to seek help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A question has come through is, what is the difference between gender-based violence and femicide?
So femicide is actually where the woman is murdered.
Okay.
So violence is ongoing, and the femicide is where the woman is murdered as a result.
Okay. So violence is not, there's a distinct difference between the two. Okay, there are a few other questions come through, but I'm going to pose them to you very shortly, right?
Okay.
Now, what advice do you have for women in keeping them safe, on staying safe?
So something about it is also not to blame survivors. And that's something that we need to realize, that no woman is responsible for violence against her.
Mm-hmm.
It's never her fault. And I'm going to go through these slowly.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps listeners want to make some notes and, catch some of the thoughts, because no one answer is the correct answer, and no one thing can be done in isolation. It's a plan. and it's called a safety plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so jot down some notes, and hence I was giving you a chance to get some pen and paper. One, the first thing is to keep emergency numbers saved as a speed dial. Sometimes you need to just speed dial somebody and say, I'm feeling afraid, or the anger is at a level that I just can't deal with today. Then identify a neighbor or a friend that you can go to. So it must be somewhere where you can just escape if you need to in an emergency. Have an emergency bag ready. Things that are essential, your ID, your phone charger, a bit of cash, in your medication if you're dependent on chronic medications. If it's a safe environment, or if you are able to document incidents, dates, times, photos, and keep copies in a secure place. Because if things were to escalate where you would need to get some legal assistance, then you could use this evidence and to be able to put together a story. When you are emotionally traumatized, when you are overwhelmed, then you can't think rationally. You can't put your story together in a logical sequence. But if you start a book, start a notebook, and you just put this information together, then it's easily accessible for yourself.
Very important, because when you're under trauma, when you're under stress, you tend to forget some very relevant and material facts. In fact, a simple thing like a phone number you can't remember.
Yeah.
Yet you're probably using that number continuously.
Absolutely.
So I like the idea of speed dial, and I like the idea of documenting these things as well.
Yeah.
On a continuous basis, record all the events that take place in chronological order, and don't miss out anything. Something which may feel irrelevant to you can be most relevant to your case if you have to proceed. Okay, Tasneem, we've got like 30 seconds before we take the Isha Azan and the ad break. So maybe you can just talk to us for the next 30 seconds with more of your information, and we'll continue after that, inshallah.
Okay, so just to share your routine with a trusted contact, keep copies of important documents, or give it to somebody that you trust. Seek early help if something feels wrong. But it's important to know that a person only leaves an abusive partner when there is a safe exit plan. So try and work out a safe exit plan for yourself.
I think that's also very vital. The safe exit plan, because in that situation, sometimes it's difficult to get away as well.
Exactly.
Okay. We're going to be taking a break for the Isha Azan and a short ad break thereafter. We will continue after with our discussion. Our guest this evening is Tasneem Fareed, the practicing social worker. The topic for discussion is violence against women and children. And our number for your WhatsApp questions or messages 060-904-1056.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7. 365.
This Adhan is sponsored for the Isal Sawab of Marhum Muhammad Farooq Latib and all Marhumeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them the highest abode in Jannah. Ameen.
أعزائي المستمعين، حان الآن موعد أذان العشاء لمدينة دربن وما حولها.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This dua brought to you by Simplex Radio, South Africa's leading retailer of appliances, car sound and home theater systems.
Having a clean, comfortable home is every homeowner's pride. That's why Khan's Chemicals have developed and manufactured prime yet affordable quality household brands. Starlight, Miracle Mum, Exterminate and Angie to care for your home and family. With a wide range of fabric softeners, dishwashing liquids, bleachers and all-purpose cleaners, pine gels, bubble baths and much more. Khan's Chemicals ensures your home remains our number one priority. For sales and other inquiries, call 011 933 4021. Khan's Chemicals, cleaning your home the way you want.
The chaos and destruction in the Gaza Strip is beyond comprehension. Virtually everyone is displaced, hungry, and in urgent need of life-saving humanitarian support. The Al-Imdad Foundation has been working tirelessly to address the health, nutrition, and water needs of the population. Our hospital, water deliveries, and hot meal programs are made possible with your support. Your donation, big or small, is a lifeline for those in dire need. Help Gaza survive. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
This Eid, we're making your celebrations extra special with Checkers Foods Cowie Park Eid Butchery Hampers Competition. 5 lucky winners will each take home a hamper valued at 1,000 Rand. From Monday, March 1st to Thursday, March 27th, spend 500 Rand or more in store, write your name and number on the back of your till slip and drop it into the competition box. Winners will be announced on Friday, March 28th on Radio Ansaar. So head to Checkers Foods Cowie Park and get shopping. T's and C's apply.
Doctors and guests on the Medical Files program will help you with any medical problems you have by giving you advice on air. However, they do not have your full medical history and they have not seen you. Please verify the advice given to you on air with your doctor who knows you better. Neither the doctors nor Radio Al Ansar will be held responsible for any ill health caused by the advice given on Radio Al Ansar.
You're listening to Medical File, and it's on Radio Ansar, CI Radio, Voice of the Cape, Radio 786, Sirius FM, Radio Islam, and IFM Port Elizabeth. And Medical Files is brought to you by the Islamic Medical Association of South Africa and is hosted by myself, Faizal MJ Suleman. The Isha Azan that was played for the Durban area, so do keep track of times in your respective areas. Our special guest is Tasneem Fareed, the social worker. And Tasneem, prior to the ad break, the question I'd posed to you or I had requested was, what advice do you have for women on staying safe? And you did share, maybe you can just summarize what you've done and continue with it.
Okay, so just a reminder, we encourage women to have a safety plan. A plan because no one idea, no one item by itself will work. So the first one is to have numbers saved as a speed dial. 2 is to identify a neighbor or friend that you can go to, a safe place, a safe haven. 3 is to have an emergency bag ready with important things like your ID, phone charger, some cash, and your chronic medications. 4 is to document incidents, document times, dates, photographs, and keep copies in a secure place. 5, share your routine with a trusted friend or contact. The next one is to keep copies of important documents, IDs, bank statements, birth certificates of children, and things like that. The next one is to seek help early. If something feels wrong and if you're in immediate danger, call the police. But it's important to remember that we can always start talking to people. We can start sharing our experiences with people, contacts that you feel that are safe solutions. And this helps to lighten the burden. And also have an exit plan. You know, if you are in danger and you feel like if he starts beating me, if I feel threatened, I can't duck into the bathroom because I can't climb out of the bathroom window. So you get yourself cornered in a place that you know that you can exit the house from. So you must have an exit plan from the house.
Okay, a question that's come through says, how does gender-based violence impact the mental, physical, and emotional well-being of survivors?
You know, it's so overwhelming, the impact of the abuse that people can go through. Let's tackle the easiest one to say is the physical, because physical is going to be that you're going to see injuries. They're going to end up in the emergency room regularly. They're going to end up at the GP regularly, broken arm, broken leg, fell down the stairs, all those kinds of excuses. And, you know, the doctor needs to be able to be sharp enough to say, how last week you had a broken finger, this week it's more severe, things like that. And as it progresses, the level of physical damage will be worse, should I say.
Now, just while you're on physical damage and talking of going to doctors, etc., do they have a duty that if they discover or they suspect that there's something wrong to report the case?
Yes, they do.
They do.
They also need to document it very carefully because they may be required to write a medical report if the matter goes to court.
Okay.
We'll get to that, I'm sure. South Africa has got very good laws on gender-based violence. And unfortunately, with you asking that question, our doctors are very reluctant to document it, number one. Number two is to report it because they don't want to spend the time going to court and to give the evidence required.
And okay, that was as far as physical is concerned. So we've got the emotional and the mental impact on the more mental, emotional, etc.
Now this is harder to heal, and it's quite severe. And one of the impacts is post-traumatic stress disorder, and we hear about this usually when somebody comes back from war, for example. It's where the women experience these violent relationships. They have symptoms like hyperarousal, sleep disturbances, nightmares, insomnia, intrusive thoughts, or memories of the trauma. So that's post-traumatic stress disorder. Depression. There's a very strong link between gender-based violence and depression, with survivors having 2 to 5 times higher risk of experiencing depressive symptoms or major depressive disorder. These lead to feelings of worthlessness, a loss of hope for the future, and an inability to function in daily life. Then is anxiety. This results in anxiety disorder, panic attacks, and they're very prevalent among survivors. Suicidal ideation and self-harm. The risk of suicidal thoughts and attempts is especially higher for gender-based violent victims than normal people. Substance use disorders, we spoke about this. People may turn to alcohol or drugs as a coping mechanism, increasing the risk of developing substance use issues. Then there's social and emotional consequences. Things like isolation, social isolation, low self-worth and low self-esteem, difficulty forming healthy relationships. There's also stigma, and the compounding factors are stigma and victim blaming, lack of support systems in society, and then the long-term exposure is chronic or repeated exposure to violence, and this is referred to as toxic stress. So it's harder to heal than the broken bones and arms.
Thank you for that. The question has come through as a question that we get always. I'm discussing gender-based violence. I get these questions. I am in a problematic relationship. I suspect my husband is a narcissist. How do I deal with the situation? I think maybe you can just explain to us what she means by narcissist.
So narcissist is somebody who is continuously putting somebody down, continuously what we also call gaslighting them, and they looking to get into a fight. They continuously, there's nothing that this person can ever do that satisfies the man in this relationship. And there's never any praise. There's never anything, oh, that was a good meal, for example. So it's important to start seeking help, start talking about it, contact, and I'll share some numbers. So maybe if people want to get some pens and papers down and save some numbers as I call them out later on before we end the show, start talking to somebody. There's lots of services available, and then a social worker on the other end of the line or going in for counseling might help to identify this, and then help you with strategies and techniques to then start addressing these things in a healthy way, perhaps.
Yep. It's time for us once again to take an ad break. We'll take a quick ad break and continue on the other side of this. To stay with us.
Teaching you something new every day. Radio Al-Ansar.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport.
Kenfield Auto.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم.
I won't start.
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes.
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service.
Kenfield Auto.
Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto. Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Doctors and guests on a medical files program will help you with any medical problems you have by giving you advice on air. However, they do not have your full medical history and they have not seen you. Please verify the advice given to you on air with your doctor who knows you better. Neither the doctors nor Radio Al-Ansar will be held responsible for any ill health caused by the advice given on Radio Al-Ansar.
The Islamic Medical Association of South Africa is holding graduation dinners throughout South Africa to honor new graduates in the field of medicine and all health sciences like dentistry, physiotherapy, optometry, occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, etc. Graduates are made to feel welcome in the new careers, bearing in mind that they are Muslims first, that the healer is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that they need to uphold the Islamic ethos throughout their careers. Joburg, Bloemfontein, and Pretoria have already had theirs. Durban graduation dinner will be held at the NMJ Hall on Friday, 5th December, and that's after Maghrib Salah. And Cape Town graduation dinner will be held on Tuesday, 9th of December. Kindly contact the IMA SA offices in your area for more details. So that is the IMA graduation dinners. We are discussing violence against women and children, and our special guest is TASNEEM Farid, a social worker. Now, TASNEEM, what barriers do survivors face? I'm sure there must be lots of barriers there.
The main barrier is the fear of retaliation. They feel ashamed. They are dependent financially on the perpetrator, or they have been dismissed before. Social workers help break these barriers by offering confidential counseling, practical support, court accompaniment, and connecting survivors to shelters, grants, and long-term safety planning. In South Africa, we're fortunate that there is legislation called the Domestic Violence Act and amendments to sexual offences legislation that strengthen victim-centered responses. And so there's lots of help available. Please, people, do not be afraid to talk about it and to be a survivor. Do not be a victim.
Now, you did say that there's lots of help available. Where can listeners get this help?
So the police are required to respond to domestic violence reports. So the first immediate contact can be SAP's emergency. It's Crime Stop 10111 or 08600 10 111. Like I said, from cell phones, you can dial 112. I've used that in an emergency situation, and they're very supportive as well on the phone. Then nationally, the gender-based violence helplines, which are government services. There's a national contact center for counseling and referrals. The number is 0800 428 428. This number would need to be verified. I know we're on international radio as well, so please check your number locally. This is a national South African number, 0800 428 428. Then there's also another national helpline or lifeline that is available. They are all toll-free numbers, and the numbers are provincial hotlines, and they offer 24-hour services and counseling. Then there's something called Tears Foundation. Tears Foundation also is very supportive, and it's a national number, 0800 08 3277. I'll say that again, 0800 08 3277.
I've got a message from my brother Altaf here, and he says that just tuned in now. Excellent topic. What is often overlooked is female on male violence. It is extremely prevalent and extremely hard for male victims to get assistance. Thank you, brother Altaf. Yes, we did discuss this at the beginning of the show, that it is highly prevalent as well. But there's something Altaf says. He says that it's extremely hard for male victims to get assistance. Is that correct?
We assume that because it's harder to prove. It's harder for people to believe, I would think. But again, the similar tips that I spoke about earlier, document incidences, keep a record of dates, times, pictures, and then start talking to one of these national helplines. They're unbiased. They're unlike the people in your society who are going to judge you. They are professional social workers who know that these things happen, and they will strengthen your ability to come out and speak out about it.
I think there's two problems here, when it comes to reporting. One is that many of us are in denial. We don't want to accept that we are survivors or victims or whatever, right? And secondly, I think we worry about the stigma that's attached to it.
Absolutely.
I mean, for me to go and say that I've been assaulted by a woman, I mean, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But yes, it's I mean, it's a fact.
It is.
And
It's
it needs to be dealt with just like a woman being assaulted by a man.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think that's important. Okay, another question has come through. Is what are the long-term effects on children who witness or experience violence?
Children, especially if they're not able to get help, they become, we spoke about the mental and psychological effects, post-traumatic stress, depression, social isolation. These are all the same effects that would hamper the children. You see that the children do not function optimally in school. It's picked up in the schools, their behavior changes, and eventually they may tend to become the abusers in their relationships. And they tend to take on the roles in their lives, in their adulthood. And, we've also seen it in women who have been victims of or survivors of gender-based violence, and in their old age they have now reversed the role and become the abuser. So it happens as well.
Let's talk about, you did mention the Domestic Violence Act, how effective it is, and how can one sort of implement it? I mean, if there's a survivor, how does a survivor get access to the courts, to the act, etc.?
It is such an excellent tool, and it's so important. The Gender-Based Violence Act can be implemented at the family court. For example, in Durban, the new court in the Point area.
Beautiful court.
Beautiful. And the Gender-Based Violence Department, the Domestic Violence Department, is absolutely helpful. They're empathetic, they're caring, they'll help you to complete the documentation, and they will see you through the process. It is so important to get what we call the word's gone out of my head. There's a document that is issued. It's called the
affidavit.
No, it's not an affidavit.
You're talking about the court order.
Yeah,
the rule I said that it gave the court order.
Okay. And so you get this stamped.
The protection order.
The protection order, right?
Okay.
And you get it stamped. And then once this is issued, then you would go into court. The husband is served with by the sheriff, and he appears in court. And if the magistrate then rubber stamps that document, that is effective for 30 years.
30 years, eh?
30 years.
Okay.
And so if there's any incidences in that period, but you have to follow through, you do not withdraw that.
Yes.
You keep it in place. You may remain in the marriage, but it's something that you can hold on. And if you go to a police station with that document and the police do not act on that protection order, then they can be held accountable for that.
Thank you for that. I get a message from Altaf again. A father who removes a child from the marital home and refuses to allow the mother to take the child away is arrested for domestic violence. But a mother who takes the child away and refuses the father access is simply seen as exercising her rights as a mother and not as a perpetrator of domestic violence. The system is inherently broken. Now, Altaf, I know him, he's an attorney, he's talking from experience. Yeah. So unfortunately, that is the setup.
Yeah.
No, but you talk about accessing, going to the family courts and getting your protection orders, etc. As you said, if you had everything documented, it makes it so much easier because you just convert that to an affidavit. The clerk of the court is going to assist you, and you can go in front of the magistrate, and you can just make out a case on the surface of it. They call it prima facie case.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll get your order.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's time for us to round up. We've got like 4 minutes to round up, or 3 minutes to round up. I'm sure you have a message for our listeners.
So the message is that there are many, many, many resources out there. There are rape crisis centers. There are people opposing women abuse. There's Tutuzela care centers. It will be incorrect for me not to talk about that. And these are listed there's a good resource on Google, and they're relevant by province. And these are counseling and professional services where if one is raped, then one can get help, from counseling to the drug against HIV/AIDS as well. We spoke about World AIDS Day yesterday. And also another resource is Stop Gender Abuse helpline. The number is 0800 150 150. And the mental health and suicide support number is SADAC, South African Depression and Anxiety Group. And, for men as well, they are a very good resource to be able to start talking about their issues. 0800 567 567.
A question that comes through says, Salams, hope you're well. Welcome, Salam. Is it an interdict? Yes, it's a form of an interdict. It interdicts the perpetrator from continuing to do what he or she is doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, another question that comes through from listeners again: how can listeners support local organizations working to combat GBV?
So it's important to be able to volunteer your time, volunteer in terms of being able to assist. Sometimes people need to talk. They need transport to get to a place. They need to be able to resources, shelters. The financial resources are low and the needs are great. So there's lots of ways that community can get involved.
Tasneem Farid, thank you very much for joining me on the program this evening. It's been wonderful talking to you. It's been highly informative. I think you want to share a message with us. I've got a minute.
Last message is to all the listeners out there. No one should ever feel ashamed or alone. Violence is never your fault, whether you're male, whether you're female. And there are professionals, there are organizations that can help you. Reaching out for her help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. Please stand together and go out there, make the call and get help.
Thank you so much. You listened to Medical Files of course our guest was Tasneem Farid, and she spoke to us about violence against women and children. Time for us to round up. I want to thank the technicians in all the various radio stations for having engineered this evening and for the wonderful job that has been done. And yes, for myself, Faizal MJ Suleman, thank you for tuning in, and till we meet again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
مقامهم فوق رأس الجبال وفوق الروابي وعند القمر ويا من تحب غياب الوفاء رأيتك تهوى غياب البصر كم قائل قد أضعت حياتي وفيا لأجلها نادى البشر أقول له أفلح الأوفياء وحسب الوفاء يطيل العمر هنيئا لمن أخلص
Doctors and guests on the Medical Files program will help you with any medical problems you have by giving you advice on air. However, they do not have your full medical history and they have not seen you. Please verify the advice given to you on air with your doctor who knows you better. Neither the doctors nor Radio Al-Ansar will be held responsible for any ill health caused by the advice given on Radio Al-Ansar.
Radio Al-Ansar.